aliens, conspiracies, Illuminati, secret societies, giants, the craziest stuff in the world. And today we're going to get into it. If you want to know the truth, you need to watch this video.
So did you know about the prophecy of the popes? This book in the Vatican archives, right, predicted every single pope from 1143 all the way to our current pope. But the scary thing is, after Pope Francis, the last one, it just says Judgment Day.
So it literally ends after Pope Francis?
Yes. And the creepiest thing inside St. Paul's Basilica, ordering the whole inner sanctuary, is a picture of every single pope, right? But what's weird is that there's only a certain amount of markers where you can put the picture. There's just one left after Pope Francis. They have always said once that last slot is filled, it will be the end of the world. He predicted the time it took to go from the first pope that he wrote about to the halfway mark was 422 years, he's saying. From the middle one to the end, another 422 years will be the end of the world. If you do 422 in the middle pope, which was 1585, that year is 2027. It's even weirder. Pope John the 23rd, he said that the end of the world would happen 2,000 years plus Christ's life. So that adds up to 2027 as well.
Well, despite that being an AI video with fake voices, maybe what they're saying is true. Who knows? 2027, we got 3 years, guys. Let's make the most of it. Woo!
Did you know that Lucifer is not the only prince of hell? And even more terrifying, he is far from being the worst of them. Hidden within the ancient pages of a medieval grimoire called the Key of Solomon, there are chilling descriptions of the 7 princes of hell. These beings are not mere demons. They are rulers of vast infernal legions, each wielding devastating power. Among them is Mammon, the prince of greed and corruption. Mammon is not just a demon, he is the very embodiment of an insatiable lust for wealth, power, and injustice. It is said that he was a fallen angel, seduced by the allure of earthly treasures. What is even more disturbing is that his influence is not confined to the spiritual realm. Mammon walks the earth, seeking souls to corrupt. His temptations are subtle, often disguised as irresistible offers of wealth and prosperity. In the Gospels of Luke and Matthew, Jesus warns us, you cannot serve both God and Mammon. This is because Mammon represents the worship of material wealth, something that consumes the soul. But there's an even more unsettling detail. Mammon is a master of disguise. He can take on any form, human or animal, silently infiltrating people's lives. If someone around you begins acting strangely, be cautious. It could be the dark presence of Mammon lurking nearby, ready to claim another lost soul. These were the last words that Satan whispered to Jesus before the crucifixion. Satan said to Jesus, "Jesus, I must admit, there is something I will miss about you. Without your presence in the world, I see your people bowing down to false religious leaders as if they were gods. They will blindly follow thieves, murderers, and charlatans who will take over your temples on earth. They will worship celebrities who produce nothing of true value. They will seek remedies that do not heal, and elect rulers who only care about filling their own pockets while neglecting those in need. These humans will become so miserable that they won't even know the names of those who prepare their food, who care for them when they are ill, or who keep faith in you alive. I have a proposal for you, Jesus. Give me the souls of those who worship these false idols after their deaths, and in return, all those who do not will have free passage to heaven with you." There was a brief pause, and then Jesus looked into Satan's eyes with deep sadness. With a gaze full of compassion, Jesus replied, "Comment and follow to watch part 2.
No! You know what? You, man. I'm not going to watch part 2. You know I'm not. You know why? Because I have to go all the way to your profile and I have to find it. Because you guys don't link them. You don't link part 2 with part 1. You just don't do it. I hate it. I hate that so much. Ugh.
Skeptics denounced it as a mere children's fable, until the emergence of this footage, dated 1912. Many theories arose concerning the creature's origins and purpose. The most widely accepted was that of a watchful guardian, protecting the city from foreign invaders. But the evidence found in the Alps suggests something else entirely.
So I've seen a lot of stuff about the Mothman. And some of it says he's actually a good person, like a good person, a good Mothman. Some say he's bad because he's a cryptid. Some people say he's like an angel. Some people say he like protects people. I don't know enough about the Mothman to make any judgment. I don't want to judge someone prematurely, you know, just because the guy's got wings and big red eyes and looks like a bug, and I hate bugs, so I don't want to be around bugs, and let alone a bug that's as big as a person. Either way, I don't want to judge. So you tell me what I need to think about the moth person, man, moth woman, but. The giant moth.
Even if I'm dead, nobody will go upstairs.
Surprisingly, someone managed to break into the second floor of Elvis Presley's mansion. After Elvis passed away, his mansion was completely sealed off, and no one could enter. Years later, the mansion was opened to the public. but one area remained off limits. The second floor. This area includes Elvis's bathroom and bedroom, and the bathroom is where Elvis passed away, right next to his master bedroom. Even presidents and high-ranking officials were denied access. Only those closest to Elvis were allowed upstairs. However, when Elvis's daughter, Lisa Marie Presley, married actor Nicolas Cage, Nicholas was granted special access to the second floor. On the night of the 25th anniversary of Elvis's death, Nicholas made a secret visit upstairs. It is said that Nicholas took a brief look at the bathroom and sat in Elvis's chair, seemingly discovering something. Afterward, Nicholas came downstairs and vomited profusely, adding to the mystery of the whole situation.
Maybe he found like a 60-year-old pill that Elvis left on the counter. That's so screwed up. That's such a messed up thing to say. Maybe he found some old popcorn and couldn't help himself from eating it and got sick.
The American people are ready to receive the truth.
Humanity is not the only intelligence in the universe.
Humanity is not the only intelligent species.
We are absolutely not alone.
Non-human intelligence exists.
UAPs are real, they're here, and they're not human. I spent 25 years as a senior official with the CIA.
I worked on highly classified UAP programs.
28 years as an astrophysicist.
I served as the 4th Director of National Intelligence.
Director of Aviation Security in the National Security Council.
The one-star admiral after 32 years of service.
People that come forward with this, I feel like they've taken their life in their own hands.
I was recruited to a highly sensitive government program that investigated unidentified aerial phenomenon.
For over 16 years, on behalf of the U.S. government, I worked as a senior intelligence official on the unidentified aerial phenomenon topic.
We learned that the U.S. government was involved in a long-running secret war with other nations to collect and reverse engineer vehicles not made by humans.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds about right. It's pretty much everything we already know. Oh, man. It gets so, like, taxing, like, watching UFO documentaries because it's like the damn Finding Bigfoot show. It's just like they never find Bigfoot. And they did, I think, in that show. I watched a video talking about it, and it was quite literally and very clearly a guy in a suit, which is so dumb. But, yeah, it's all the same stuff. It's just people saying the same stuff, man, and not disclosing anything new. And I feel like the only way to really get, like, real is from like TikTok and YouTube and Instagram Reels and stuff, because anything the government leaks out is just going to be horse. You know what I mean? It's just up to regular people that happen to record stuff on their phone or record, experiences they had that are really going to give us the real news. So I'm very thankful for social media. And I never thought I would say I'm thankful for TikTok because I don't hang out on TikTok. I just go to it for like bit clips and stuff, but I don't ever like spend time on it. So I can't really say like, oh, I love TikTok, but I'm very thankful for it, for the kind of videos and news, I guess you could say, like real news that it allows us to receive from the everyday person like you and myself.
Why do you think so many people are starting to remember their time in the gifted and talented education programs? If you don't already know, there was something called the GATE program that many people were in as children. And there are a lot of us who are starting to wake up to the fact that this program was much weirder than we thought. You might not even remember it right now until you are shown images like these. I think that there are a few reasons behind this, and realistically, it's probably a combination of all of them, and the last one being very conspiratorial, so if you don't like that kind of stuff, get on out of here before the end of the video. The most obvious one is what we're doing right now. Social media has connected us more than we've ever been connected before in human history, and it allows random people like me to talk to random people like you and share our stories, compare notes, and that's where we are realizing that things are not adding up. This doesn't make sense, even if just evidenced by the fact that so many of us have little to no memories of the program. And by hearing someone else speak about it, it jogs your memory and you realize, oh no, I was in that. The second thing that I find super interesting is just how many of us went through this program and then later in life decided to explore things like meditation, hypnosis, and plant medicines. And some people theorize that this was part of our conditioning that we went through as kids, and that is why we go on to do it again, because it feels like almost home to us, which could be true. But I personally think that on some subconscious level, we all have this need to connect our memories. We feel fragmented on some level, and that is why we seek out out these other modalities to try and put all the pieces back together as a whole. And through this exploration, we are able to recall these memories that have been buried deep. Now, the conspiracy theory that I love to think about is they're deliberately erasing our memories from the program. Some people think that it maybe was the hypnotherapy that they gave us in our hearing tests. Other people think that it's due to the little pink drink that they gave us in those paper cups. That was a fluoride dental treatment. Maybe it was both. And I can't help but wonder if whatever they did to erase our memories had an expiration date, and it is wearing off now. And that is why so many of us are waking up to the oddities of our childhood and the fact that the gifted and talented programs were not what they were sold to us as. But I'm willing to entertain all sorts of crazy conspiracy theories, so if you think it was something even weirder than what I just said, I'd love to hear about it.
Okay, hold up. The pink drink. I remember that now. What? So I'm 39 years old, right? Like they used to have us do these like super weird, I don't know, I definitely went through it, where I had the headphones on and it made me look at these like little shapes and stuff. And I definitely drank a pink drink. I remember that now. Holy what? Hold on. I gotta find another one of these. Hold on. This is wild. This is like the first theory I think that I've ever watched that has actually like kind of set me back. Like, holy like I remember that. Like, what?
Were you pulled out of class and tested as part of the gifted and talented GATE program? Here's some deja vu. Listen to this.
This is the first step along your path to a gateway.
Does that sound familiar?
A gateway beyond which is discovery. Your own discovery of reality, of truth, of who and what you are.
Do you remember doing the tests with the colored yarn on the pegboards or the little wooden boards with the nails when you were doing the audio test? Or did they have you do the flashcards where you were supposed to try and guess the colors and the shapes? Were you actually tested as part of a gifted and talented program, or were they actually testing to see, as part of a government program, if you had telepathy? If this is familiar to you, let me know.
All right, yo, that one legitimately freaked me out. This stuff's all fun and games for me. Like, I don't believe most of this stuff, you know, right away, like initially. Like, I try to look at everything from like a unbiased perspective, and if it's something I do believe, I'll let you know. If it's something I truly don't believe, like flat Earth, I'm still learning. I'm still open to it. I'm just not there. And there's a lot of stuff, if I don't believe it, I'll look at it and try to think like, okay, like what would have to happen in this theory with all this information I have for me to believe it, right? Like I try to be very open about everything and see it from other people's perspective. But this is the first one that has actually given me chills and freaked me out. Because I remember all of that. I remember the damn yarn. I remember the pink drink they gave me afterward. Why would they give us like a dental flush after a hearing test? That doesn't make any sense to me now. I mean, it makes sense now, but looking back, like why would those two things be incorporated with one another? Dude, this is this is seriously freaking me out. Like I'm shook right now. I'm not even kidding. Like this is wild. Send me more videos about the stuff, please. I really need to learn more about this.
Begin to see more of them appearing.
Well, the Greys are trying to create a sub-race that is a blend between human culture, the human race, and their race.
A kind of a hybrid Sith.
Exactly. They're not being very, very successful. And one of the things that they're trying to do is they're really looking for the soul. They don't understand the soul. They don't understand our extremes of emotions as well, because they're very, very different from us. There's experiments haven't been all that successful. There are a lot of emotional problems with that, because what really makes a human being is our essence, is the spirit that animates the physical form. Well, there's also another factor, and that is that they actually feed off the energy. They're vampires.
The Zodiac Greys.
The Greys, right. They're vampires.
Is this where we get our vampire legends? A lot of our vampire legends?
I don't know about that. I don't know if that has to do with it. I don't really know. I wouldn't be surprised, to be perfectly honest with you. But they feed off the energy. They can even bottle the energy and use it for later times. They're also stealing the vital bodies of human beings and storing it. So, I mean, they're just doing some really horrific things here that other races just simply wouldn't conceive of doing.
Breaking space news, absolutely insane and announced this morning. Scientists sent a spacecraft to an asteroid 63 million kilometers away, grabbed a chunk of it, and brought it back to Earth. And they've analyzed the sample, and the results of what is on this asteroid are in. Basically, scientists think that this asteroid used to be part of a much bigger object, like an ancient planet or moon in the early solar system, and this chunk broke off from it. On Earth, life uses these 20 amino acids to create proteins. They found 14 of these 20 amino acids on this asteroid. Also, you know these 5 nucleotide bases used to make DNA and RNA? Guess how many of these 5 were discovered on the asteroid? All of them. They found all 5 of the building blocks for DNA and RNA on this asteroid. They also found 11 different minerals that form as water-containing salt evaporates. Salt water. It's also rich in carbon, nitrogen, and other organic compounds that are essential to life as we know it. All of this means that the object that this asteroid came from had the building blocks for life and probably a salty ocean. It was probably an ancient ocean world, and this asteroid is just a messenger carrying on its history. It's also possible that asteroids just like this are what brought life to Earth in the first place.
Yeah, dog, we didn't originate here. There's no way. We either came from somewhere else or someone else from somewhere else came here and helped create us. I don't think that we were originally meant to be here on Earth. Probably wrong.
This is it. This is the one we've all been waiting for. Trust me. Take a look at this.
This is the biggest discovery in human history.
I have seen with my own eyes non-human craft and non-human beings. Finally.
Humanity is not the only intelligence in the universe.
Humanity is not the only intelligent species.
We are absolutely not alone.
Non-human intelligence exists. It was recruited to a highly sensitive government program that investigated unidentified aerial phenomena to collect and reverse engineer vehicles not made by humans.
Not made by humans.
That cracks the code on this technology will be the leader for years to come.
This is so secret. Very, very few people in our entire government have been allowed access to it.
Who had information being locked away that could change the trajectory for species.
It has so many beneficial impacts, including clean energy.
We should have disclosure today. We should have disclosure tomorrow.
These are the real credible people, trust me.
Who are the Anunnaki? You do not ask the right questions. They carve our names into stone. They whisper them in the dark. You search the ruins of your dead cities, hoping to remember what was never meant to be remembered. But the answers do not belong to you. We were before your time, before your kind, before the illusion of kings and priests, before the first word was spoken, before the first god was named. The temples you kneel in were raised to us. The blood you spill was first spilled in our wars. You do not remember because you were not meant to. And yet, you wake at night, staring at the sky, feeling something you cannot name. Because we have never left you. They called him God. They called him justice. They called him Babylon. He called himself ruler of the heavens. Before your kings wore crowns, we wore them. Before your cities had walls, we tore them down. Before your kind was shaped, we had already cast others aside. We do not sleep. We do not forget. You call us myths, but myths do not watch from the silent spaces of the deep. You call us gods, but gods do not return. You call this your world, but it has never been yours. You feel it, don't you? The weight in the air, the shifting of the tide, the silence before a storm you cannot see. You have filled your world with light, but the shadows have only grown deeper. There are places you do not go, ruins you do not understand, names you do not speak, not because you forgot, but because you remember. Somewhere buried beneath the hum of your machines and the glow of your false suns, something inside you still knows. We never left. We gave you fire. We gave you kings. We gave you war. The sky is closing in. The ground beneath you is shifting. Your time is running out. The return has already begun. You will not see us coming. You will not hear our voices. You will only know that something has changed, that something is here.
I got nothing. I got nothing to say about that. It was pretty intense.
Rome conquered the Earth, then abandoned it. By 340 AD, its empire stretched across the solar system. Mars became the seat of its war machine, where generals ruled fortress cities and gladiators fought in amphitheaters carved into crimson deserts. Jupiter's moons bore shrines to Jupiter Optimus Maximus, with priests reading omens in the gas giant's storms. Pax Romana spread to the outer planets as millions were moved to the stars, their lives dictated by conquest, spectacle, and sacrifice. On Earth, the eternal city stood silent. Romans no longer looked to Earth. The stars were their empire.
Okay, so clearly that was fiction, but that was so incredibly similar to my favorite book series ever, Red Rising. I don't know, I'm obsessed with it. My bookshelf, the entire, top 3 are just different versions of the book and special editions and stuff. So if you like sci-fi, read Red Rising. It's outstanding.
And I'm starting to freak out, but then he starts to talk to me, and it's not my language, but it's coming to, the understanding is like coming into my mind about every word he's saying, and it calms me down at the same time, because I'm having to respond to him. And he's like, hello, I'm having trouble with my craft. I need some repair material. Do you know where I could find some tritium? And this is what he's talking to me about. And I'm like, you mean titanium? Because I didn't know anything about tritium at the time. But titanium, he's like, no, it's not it. And I'm like, well, at this point in my career, I had just left the program. So I knew where Dreamland was, and I pointed to the mountain range because you can see for days in the desert. But I pointed towards the mountain range, and I said, Dreamland's just over there. And this wave of emotion hit me like disgust, like I am not going to talk to those barbarians and murderers.
Wow, so he was saying that to you, his reaction to going to the military base was...
Exactly, yeah. He did not like it. He said, I am not going to talk to those people. And then I was like, well, shoot.
And it was barbarians and murderers?
He literally, that was what he called them, yes. And mentally, that's what it was.
There are 2 types of people in the world. Earthseeds represent the majority of humanity, and they do not carry the crystal gene associated with accelerated evolution and multidimensional awareness. They are connected to an artificial soul matrix, which makes them particularly susceptible to external manipulation and propaganda. In contrast, starseeds do have the crystal gene, which grants them spiritual awareness and multidimensional perception. They are connected to their original soul matrix and 12-strand DNA imprint, and thus possess enhanced intuitive abilities, making them less susceptible to manipulation. Starseeds also have a natural inclination for uncovering and sharing original truths. Starseeds are supposed to ground higher dimensional frequencies onto Earth, as well as act as rebels to help guide and awaken Earthseeds to their true potential, to help humanity enter a golden age.
There is something called the Indigo Children Tribes. We're called Magi Kings. From back in the days of Atlantis. And Magi comes from the word Maharaji. Magi. Maharaji. Azarites, which are blue angels, Orifim, which are these angels over here, feline avian hominid, that's the line of indigo children type 3s. This is the line for indigo children type 1 and 2s. You see the connection with Azarites and Orifim. We learned that before they come to Earth, their soul essence incarnates from Stargate 6, SG6, and that's from Sirius B. Just like Joshua, Jesus did, the indigo children are coming in.
Okay, so are there different humans that are from different bloodlines, from different ancient species of extraterrestrials that allows us to have different abilities? For instance, some people are empaths, some people are force sensitive, some people are psychic, some people can have outer body experiences. I've heard that we all have these abilities. We all have the ability to tap into these techniques and whatnot, but I feel like some people just have it more naturally, and I wonder if that comes from being more sensitive to something based on heritage or bloodline or DNA or whatever you want to call it. Either way, I don't know. I'm just here trying to figure this stuff out just like you and the rest of the world.
Antarctica is a mystery. Global warming. It is melting ice that has been there for about 20,000 years. And it began to expose these complex structures. These are massive complex structures with room after room after room after room. Google Earth pixelated all of that out. They don't want us seeing. There was a film crew from Los Angeles that went down to document what was happening, and they have not been heard from since. They've disappeared. If they were successful in finding the bases, they probably would not have been allowed to leave. Mainstream doesn't want to talk about it. They've been told not to talk about that.
That is so interesting to me. So if all the ice is melting and all these old structures are popping up and they're not allowing us to know about them, why do you think they chose these things to not let us know about? I mean, I guess it'd be kind of hard to hide the pyramids of Giza, and that's why they're trying so hard to keep the truth behind them covered up. Why do you think they're so selective about the things that they share with us and things they don't? If we have ancient structures that we know about and that are here, like the pyramids of Giza and the Sphinx and all this other shit that's in mainstream archaeology, do you think that those were just exposed before they decided not to share things with us from our past? So they're just like, you know, giving them different stories? Or do you think that they just don't hold as much history inside of them as the things that they're keeping from us, like in Antarctica and everywhere else in the world? Just super interesting to me, the fact that they're just covering up some stuff and just not all of it.
Bruh, what on earth is this thing? Apparently it's called the opium or the erosion bird, and looking at it makes me feel weird. And don't worry, they're definitely AI generated, but many are beginning to claim that creatures like this are actually real, and we've already encountered them in our past before. Depictions of bird-like creatures have been found all over the ancient world, in Mesopotamia and Egypt, and even all the way across the ocean in the Mayans and Aztecs. Why did cultures all around the world just all independently come up with the same allegedly fictitious anthropomorphic bird? The ruins left behind by one of these ancient civilizations are rumored to have been discovered and then covered up in Antarctica as well. A lot of controversy behind these. I actually made another video about it, so check it out if you want to know more. They were allegedly uncovered during an expedition led by Captain Robert Falcon Scott in 1912. Fast forward a couple years to 1946 for yet another Antarctic expedition, this time led by Admiral Richard Byrd. Robert Falcon Scott? Admiral Richard Byrd? Okay, these are definitely coincidences. Anyway, we were fresh out of World War II, and Admiral Byrd was tasked with mapping out sites for potential future military sites in the South Pole. While scouting, him and his crew stumbled on something that no one in the world would have ever expected, and he documented it all in his personal diary, which didn't make the final cut of his official publication and was discovered by his son years after his death. In here, he recounts a mind-boggling story. As he flies over Antarctica, he passes over some mountains and discovers an enormous opening in the icy surface. Him and his squadron fly into it, and all of a sudden, they're surrounded by a luscious green landscape of grass and forests. He continues on, seeing giant creatures roaming around him, and he's brought to a shimmering rainbow city made of crystal. He's surrounded by these flying disc-shaped objects that lead him to the ground, and he's brought to a tall being called the Master. Highly advanced beings living in a futuristic city inside the Earth? Yup, it's the infamous Hollow Earth theory. And yeah, all of this is in his diary. And to be clear, Admiral Byrd was one of the most decorated and highly celebrated officers in the American military. He wrote this diary during his prime years, not when he became old, so dismissing it all as a senile crackpot's journal doesn't make any sense. In the diary, he talks about meeting this tall being who tells them they're disappointed in humanity and are afraid that we might nuke ourselves into extinction. And this is around the time we started doing nuclear testing. Maybe this was our first glimpse of the real erosion bird? Bird-like gods, entrances to underground worlds in Antarctica with tall beings. Kinda checks out. And maybe these beings and all the flying discs mentioned are also related to all the UFO sightings we've been seeing in the past couple years. Apparently, Admiral Byrd really wanted to share these findings, but was ordered by the military to stay silent about it. Along with bird-like beings, records of inner-Earth civilizations have been reported by many, if not almost every ancient society of our past. Buddhists have the subterranean kingdom of Agartha. Ancient Indians have Patala. The Mayans got Xibalba, an underworld civilization, which is called Chico Mostok for the Aztecs. Ancient African and other native cultures talk about subterranean cavern spirits. The Sumerians knew it as Kur, Babylonians Urkala. Ancient Chinese Diyu, Japanese Yomi. Ancient Egyptian, Greek, Roman, and even Celtics all had myths of an underground world inhabited by superior beings, some of whom were cast out of this utopia onto the surface of Earth and started humanity as we currently know it. Could this even be the original Garden of Eden? And just like the flood myth that appears in every single ancient civilization, when stories are repeated this often, we have to ask ourselves, what if they actually happened? These giant holes have been reported to be seen at the poles on numerous occasions. In 1829, a fisherman named Olaf Janssen claims to have sailed through a polar opening and into the planet's interior, where he met a race of tall beings, giants. In 1985, a naval engineer team at McMurdo Station in the South Pole reports seeing circular aircraft flying above an area called the Beardmore Glacier. They couldn't investigate it because the area was a no-fly zone, obviously. But at one point, they get an emergency call from an injured crew member that needs immediate evacuation. In order to get to him on time, they needed to fly fly through the Beardmore Glacier. And when they did, they reported seeing almost exactly what Admiral Byrd documented. A giant football field-sized opening, some sort of entrance in the ice leading deep beneath the surface. And when they get back to the station, a man in a black suit arrives, telling them that they did not see what they just saw. Are these the entrances to the hidden underground lands of our past, like Agartha, and the true home of the erosion bird?
I absolutely love the Hollow Earth theory. I'm kind of on board with it, just because I like it so much. I don't know if I've seen enough evidence to really 100% believe it's true. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff out there leaning toward, it being a possibility. But I think with all this stuff, I think all of us are a little bit biased in the sense to where the stuff that we like, we lean a little more toward just like hoping it's true. I mean, maybe not everyone. Some of us could be maybe 100% rational and logical, like I try to be. But like I said, hoping something is true isn't the same as believing it's true. And a lot of these things, I hope they're true. I hope there are more, land masses outside an ice wall. I hope that there is a species living within inner Earth. I hope that, everything we hear about outer space and aliens on other planets is true. I love the possibility of all that stuff. Not saying I believe it all. I'm saying I like it. So there's definitely things that I hope are more true than other things. And this is one of those things. But let me know what you think about the Hollow Earth theory. Do you think it's true? Do you think that they are coming out to warn us with the flying saucers? Every time it seems like there's a war that is being started, we're seeing more UFOs. Do you think that they're trying to tell us this could be the last one if you guys, get trigger happy, fucking chill out?
There's some pyramid-like structures or hills in China as well, right?
There's thousands of pyramids in China. Xi'an, the province of Xi'an, is just the moment you land there from your aircraft, you're seeing pyramids everywhere. I've been there. There are certainly hundreds and hundreds of them, distributed across fields, vanishing off into the distance in all directions. They've been terraced and used as agriculture. But local farmers grow crops on them. I went there with Chinese archaeologists. They haven't excavated a single one. Not one.
Why not?
They said, we don't have, this was nearly 10 years ago I was there. They said they've probably got the money now, but they said then they didn't have the money. They said, we're an old country. We don't mind if we wait 200 years to get to grips with this.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. And the famous tomb of the first emperor is part of this pattern. It is also a pyramid. It has also not been excavated. The terracotta army around it has been found.
The terracotta army is amazing.
Oh, yeah.
It was on display somewhere, wasn't it? Where you can go and see it live?
Yeah, they did some kind of travel.
I'd want to see that thing. I'd want to look at those things. What a bizarre concept. Yeah. Now, these pyramids, so this one that this emperor was buried in that had the terracotta army, was that a pyramid as well?
It is a pyramid.
It is.
Absolutely. It's a man-made pyramid. The terracotta army was buried around its edges, not in the pyramid itself.
So the army was there to protect him?
Yeah, to protect his soul into the afterlife seems to have been the idea. And then there's a mythology that's come down that within the pyramid is a lake of mercury, that there are mechanical devices in there which will fire arrows at you if you go in. That there's a whole story about how intensely protected it is, and up to this day it's not been excavated.
That's so crazy. How could someone leave that alone?
And even major archaeological sites like Tiwanaku in Bolivia, for example, you'll find that only about 2% of the site has been excavated. I don't know how we can draw inferences about the whole site from a tiny little fraction like that, and that's the problem, I think, with archaeology, and it's why we have to consider another way.
We're looking at an image of the terracotta army now in front of this pyramid, and it is spectacular. Now that I think about it, I don't think that was on display anywhere. I think maybe they had a couple of them.
They brought some of them. They came to the British Museum. There were a number of museums.
But it's so much bigger than I thought it was.
Yeah.
How many? There's thousands. Yeah. There's thousands of these terracotta figures.
Absolutely.
And this pyramid was made out of what? Was it stones?
Rammed earth, mainly.
Okay. So they just sort of shaped the ground. They just dug around
it. They brought in earth and turned it into a pyramidal mound.
But it wasn't.
It's not massive stone blocks. It's not massive stone. That's why they can grow crops on the sides of some of these pyramids.
Wow, how weird.
Yeah.
So they would build these giant mounds of dirt and then dig holes in them and support them. And
they probably created the interior, subterranean as they were building the whole thing over it.
And then just stacked dirt on top of it.
Yeah.
Wow, what a weird way to make a house.
Yeah, and then we have to consider this with, with archaeological sites all around the world, is that any site may actually not be the product of just one culture, but may have been reworked and worked over and used by many different cultures over many different periods.
Stunning to me. I found out about this because of a friend of John Anthony West who was here with him. He showed me, he lives in China, and he was showing me some video of it. And I was like, how do I not know about this? I had no idea there was this many of them. Oh, so here's one that's exposed?
Controversial ancient pyramids of China.
That one looks exposed.
Yeah.
It's
And that one
stone.
looks blocky. Yeah, yeah.
Well, that is another thing about China that we just don't have a clue. When we think about the age and scale of things, we're so silly. We've only been around since 1776 is when the country was established. It's not really that long ago. You're dealing with China. You're dealing with literally thousands of years of civilization, all rising and falling and taking place and adapting and growing, all in this one area. That's still, in our eyes, in a lot of ways, it's kind of behind, right? I mean, they're behind environmentally. They're behind when it comes to human rights.
Consider this. The Portuguese, in the late 1400s, have rounded the Cape of Good Hope, and they've entered the Indian Ocean in their little ships. They've entered the Indian Ocean, and they actually establish a huge empire. They go to Malacca. They go all over the place, okay? The seas are open to them. If they had come 40 years earlier, they would have encountered the Chinese treasure ships. Ships that were 50 times larger than the little caravels that the Portuguese were sailing in. But you know what the Chinese did at that time? They went through a period where they felt they just wanted to give gifts to people. And they put together these huge fleets carrying incredibly precious gifts, silks and ceramics, and they took them all around the Indian Ocean and they just gave them to people. Wow. So off the coast of East Africa, and in East Africa you can find remains of this pottery from this episode. And then a Chinese emperor came along, and he closed the doors, burned all the boats, shut everything down, and didn't let anybody speak to China for 200 years.
Whoa, what a dick.
Well, he felt that it was time for the Chinese culture to turn inward.
Yeah.
And they were afraid that their ancient culture, on one hand, there might have been maybe a laudable motive in that they were concerned that the ancient culture was going to get contaminated by too much contact with degenerate cultures from other places, and that was a factor in it.
That constant desire to maintain the current situation.
It's human. We have to say it's some kind of human nature.
Yeah.
The Terracotta Army is incredible. I saw it at the Field Museum in Chicago when I was living there. It was awesome. They had 3, I think, of the actual Terracotta Army statues, like encased, like protected, obviously, because they're very old and fragile. And they had like a miniature, exact replica of the entire layout of where they're digging them up. And I guess every one of those soldiers, those statues, is different. Like there's not one that's identical, because they're based off of the actual soldiers that were part of that Terracotta Army to protect that dude. So it's super fucking interesting, super awesome display. Obviously it was at the museum, so it didn't talk about any of the conspiracies or any of the pyramids and stuff like that, but just learning a little bit and actually seeing the statues like up close was really fucking cool. And there are conspiracies around this, so let me know if you're interested in hearing about some of those.
Cardi B is clearly being controlled.
Nobody asked me about
You've probably seen this video. She freezes.
So is there going to be a public registry? Because I'm going to be honest with you.
He notices.
Take the gift cards. Fuck everybody's present.
And then to bring her back, he claps 1,
take the gift
2,
cards, take the
3,
gift cards.
repeats
Yeah,
herself.
because they might put, what's
She's
that
back.
thing that was going on?
Now watch this video.
I feel weird, I feel nervous, a little bit overwhelmed.
Watch when she freezes.
Oh no, I don't know what's wrong with me. No, it's good.
Now notice how the people in the background noticed what was happening, and then the interviewer said, it's good, it's good, it's good, and then Cardi came right back too. Notice the people in the background noticed, and then she says it's good 3 times. And that's when Cardi B comes back. My wife actually pointed out the correlation of the repeating themselves 3 times before she came back too. Nevertheless, you have to admit that is weird. evidence of MKUltra?
I'll be the first to admit that there's some weird shit that celebrities do and how they act and shit like that. But I think Cardi B, that's just like her whole demeanor. It's just kind of weird. Like she's very animated from what I've seen. I don't listen to her music. It's not my thing. Not my vibe. I don't really pay attention to anything that she does in her personal life. But from things that I've seen like this, like she is very animated and she does, you know, kind of do things to like provoke a reaction out of people. Who knows? When it comes to these celebrities, I don't know, man. The ones that are like really in spotlight, maybe they are, you know, being controlled. I know that some of them have handlers. I don't know if that's just a PR department or what, and they just call them handlers to like keep them out of trouble and shit. But who knows, man? Who knows? I don't want to find out.
And guys, we're down here taking breaks. We're downtown Flint. Downtown. So check this out. That tree is clearly 300 years old. Probably 200. But look at what we found inside. What is this? I got some markings on it, but I don't know. That ain't natural. Anybody got any thoughts?
I'm thinking maybe like an old grave. Maybe somebody like planted a tree on top of a grave next to a gravestone hundreds of years ago, and it just grew around it like that. Who knows though? Like just because America's a new country doesn't mean the continent is new. You know, this continent's been around just as long as any other continent, and there have been civilizations that have lived here long before us Americans came here and started doing our thing. So, and at the end of the day, I guess you don't really know until it gets looked at and it gets tested and carbon dated and all that fucking shit. But in this case, I think it was probably, like I said, just a grave potentially that someone planted the tree on.
This photo was taken at a boxing event a couple of years ago by the mother of my friend who's fighting, and she posted a couple of pictures of the night on Facebook, to which everyone kept asking who the girl is in the ring. I was at the event and never recall seeing her, and neither could anyone else. So we looked into this a bit more, and we found out that years before the venue used to be a children's home and got burnt down. And my mate seems to think that they look like burn marks on her arm. What do y'all think? Everyone thought yes.
Oh no, that's not right.
That's not right.
Oh.
That's not right. For all the people that are like, that's just a girl in the ring, no one can remember seeing her.
And that is a person that you would remember.
You would remember seeing a skulking, creepy girl walking around the ring.
But picture it like a gas tank meter. When you are a fresh entity, you're on full. And when you start to do things, like you become full-bodied apparitions, you interact, you move things, whatever, what have you, and they're expending energy, that gas tank ticks down. But a lot of times, the freshest entities are the most solid in that way. So this, at least for me, this feels like an entity that died very recently.
I'm beginning to think it's not human.
Really?
And I think it is imitating someone who died from fire. And again, wild conjecture. There's no sensationalization there.
Exactly.
The face, the eyes look a little too large and dark.
And the mouth is like non-existent.
Is hardly existent. And we talk about this a lot when entities parade as humans, they don't always get it right. There's certain aspects of it that just aren't completely right. Like the hair is not quite right.
Nope. First things first, that's a nope. I have a lot of friends that fight. I got a few buddies that are pro boxers, a few that are amateur and pro, MMA fighters, UFC fighters and shit. And if I was ever at one of those fights and I saw that shit, that would freak me the fuck out for sure. Especially if I saw it after the fact in a photograph, and being there and not seeing it, fuck, man, I don't know if I can ever go to a fight again. That's fucking wild. That's interesting what they said, though, about, non-human entities not always getting it right. Being that the eyes may be a bit different, the hair might be a bit different, the mouth non-existent. But if it was a burn victim, I could see the hair being like matted and like that, and the eyes blackened out, maybe like charred, burnt or something, and maybe the fucking lips just being burnt off. I don't know. That is terrifying. Keep my composure as much as possible, but that's a big fucking nope. That's a nope more than anything. I need a nope bell or like a fucking horn or something to hit when there's something like this that just fucking trips me out. Fuck that.
I don't know if you saw this story, Jeremy, but basically Ron DeSantis tried to take away Disney World's rights of self-governance since they're pushing all the child grooming stuff lately. And Disney World came back and was like, not so fast. We only answer to the crown. And this is just almost hilarious if you know what's going on, because they would never ever admit this unless they were forced to in a situation like this. But they basically admitted, like, you don't have jurisdiction over us because we're owned by Britain. So for those of you who are like confused by this, apparently the land that Disney World is on is owned by the crown. And so since like 1960, Disney World has basically been a tax-free sovereign district, you know, exempt from taxes and anything to do with federal statutes. And they basically claim to just be like an apolitical charity. You know, Disney does a lot of charity work so that they can be tax exempt. Then they started pushing all this woke stuff, and so Ron DeSantis was like, all right guys, you want to get involved in politics? Then let's do politics. We're going to take away your tax exempt status in Florida. But then Disney World came back and pulled out this clause from the British Bill of Rights, which is a royal clause that dates back to like 1692. And it says that essentially Britain has sovereignty over any territory of the crown until the last descendant of King Charles III has passed. And
that's wild. I didn't know that was a thing. I know that like we can sell pieces of our land here to other countries. I don't know if we're allowed to, but I know that it's happened. But I'm not really sure like how that stops. I don't know the laws and the rules around that. I don't know if like overall the US still has, you know, controlling power over that land because it's on US soil. I don't know. This whole thing with Disney World and DeSantis has been pretty crazy back and forth. I live down here in Florida, but I don't know a ton about all of this stuff. Maybe I should learn more about this stuff living down here. But then again, I still haven't even learned how to swim, and I've been living down here in Florida for 3 years, so we'll see.
Deep in the heart of the Louisiana Bayou, a tale unfolds at the Myrtles Plantation, an estate with a sinister past. It's said to be one of the most haunted places in the South. The story begins in the 19th century when the plantation was a thriving cotton farm. One chilling tale tells of Chloe, a slave who had her ear amputated as punishment. She was caught listening to private discussions and was subsequently subjected to a brutal punishment. Seeking revenge, she poisoned her owner's family with a cake. They died in agony, and her vengeful spirit still roams the property. Visitors have heard her cries and seen her ghostly figure lurking near the grand mirror. The Myrtles Plantation boasts at least a dozen restless spirits, from ghostly children who mysteriously play in the hallways, to a Confederate soldier who wanders the grounds. These tormented souls make the Myrtles a place where the living dare not tread after dark, leaving visitors to wonder if they'll make it through the night.
That's creepy. Tormented spirits, man. That's something I don't often voluntarily dip my fingers in. I don't want any pissed off spirits.
Did you know that there were World's Fair exposition events held in Brazil during the 1800s and early 1900s? As the story goes, in the city of Rio de Janeiro in 1908, the Brazilian National Exposition was held near the Babylon Hill area. Just like all the other similar events from around the world, a small city of incredibly ornate and diverse architectural wonders were constructed in an impressively short amount of time. They say that almost everything was built using wood, plaster, and other temporary materials, but it was done on a gigantic scale, with one structure exceeding 50,000 square feet. And then, after all that time, effort, and planning, not to mention money, the event opened a month late and only lasted for 3 months. As per usual with these events, it was a financial failure for the organizers and investors. And then, according to plan, of course, they tore everything down as soon as the event was over. Isn't it interesting, though, that we often find in these areas certain isolated structures that have survived to the present day? One such example is the state's Pavilion building, which is now the Earth Sciences Museum. There's no indication that this structure was any different from all the others at the expo, and yet, for some apparently arbitrary reason, they decided to make it using permanent materials. Today it houses one of Brazil's most important collections of historical artifacts, but it is the building itself that is arguably the most fascinating and important historical treasure in the collection. The massive 65,000 square foot building is constructed with carved ashlar stone and local gneiss. Its interior is filled with rich architectural details, cast iron and brass elements, tile and marble floors, as well as all the finest furnishings, statues, and original art by famous painters. And just like every other part of the expo, there were tens of thousands of electric lights, both inside and outside, that would illuminate the grounds at night. It looks like it belongs somewhere in Old World Europe. Many of these buildings appear to have been constructed with the same level of craftsmanship. Why do we find this recurring architectural motif in so many major cities across the world? Were these structures truly just temporary, or might they hide important truths about our world history, kept secret from the public eye? Could there have existed a unified global system prior to World War I? Its true timeline obscured by time and the fog of multiple wars? What were they trying to hide?
All right, so here's the thought that I just had. So I am all for this. Like, I love the mud flood conspiracy. I love thinking that, you know, all these buildings have like been around, like old world buildings that were real and, you know, built with, you know, either Freemasons that came from Europe, and that's why the architecture was similar to, you know, European buildings, or forgotten, lost, or hidden technology that helped build all this stuff in such a short time. I love all that shit. But now I'm thinking about it, and I don't know if this is quite what I believe yet. It's just a thought I had right now when I was making this comparison about this building sticking around and being similar to the other ones that they tore down. It's a World's Fair, right? So it's basically like a science fair or some place where people come to kind of see what's possible, kind of come see what people's different abilities are, kind of like concept cars, right? It's not like a mass production car, but they'll make something that looks really fucking cool to show you what they're capable of. It's like a runway show as well. Like all the crazy shit that like these avant-garde fashion designers make, like that's not actually in their fashion line. That's just basically to like stretch to the extent, like the very furthest abilities of that designer or that artist, you know, capabilities. And that's why it looks so fucking weird. It's not things people would actually wear. It's just to show you like the mind behind the fashion designer. So I'm thinking if these buildings were actually like paper mache or like a Hollywood movie set, you know, just kind of like empty shells, like what they're saying, if they built those around the actual like well-made buildings, if they were to build these like paper mache buildings around that, I could see the reasoning be just to kind of show, you know, what is capable, what the capabilities are of like the humans doing this stuff. So I could see the rationale behind believing that these buildings were, you know, just put up in a very short time using, you know, temporary materials and really not having any interior to them, just kind of being like a Hollywood movie set. I could see the rationality behind believing that. I prefer to think that they were actually built. They were actual like real buildings and stuff, though. Even if that doesn't make as much sense for me to believe, even if, you know, it's a little more out there, a little further out there, I'm still on the side of believing that, you know, these structures, these buildings were actually created and torn down for whatever reason. And only because, well, I guess not only because I like the idea of, you know, us having the ability to do that at some point in history, but also just because like all the other shit that they're hiding from us, you know, the Terracotta army, the pyramids around there, like we saw in this video, all these other structures in Antarctica and on the moon and wherever else these structures are, like all the shit like they're keeping from us, like, yeah, why wouldn't they? You know, why wouldn't they keep this from us? Why wouldn't they keep whatever processes we made to build these buildings from us in order to, you know, push toward using, you know, disposable, cheap materials to keep, you know, companies in business and their profits up? And I mean, it's kind of like using fossil fuel. Like, there's no reason to use that shit anymore if we really don't want to. I'm sure we could probably run fucking cars and planes on water right now if we wanted to, but we're not, because it's not profitable, you know? So yeah, so that's where I'm going to go with this. I think I like the idea of these being very real things. And dude, the World's Fair Chicago looked so fucking awesome from the photos I saw. I would love to have seen all that while living in Chicago. It's really depressing, actually, when it comes down to it. It's really depressing that we're not able to really know what's going on, not really see everything that we're capable of, and see everything that we've done so far. Like, there's so much beautiful like architecture and art that we're allowed to see. I can only imagine the kind of stuff that we're not allowed to see or not allowed to know about. It's really depressing.
Of the money you earn, I'm afraid that's very selfish. We shall want to tax that away. You want to own shares in your firm? We can't have that. The state has to own your firm. You want to choose where to send your children to school. That's very divisive. You'll send your child where we tell you. Socialists don't like ordinary people choosing, for they might not choose socialism.
The political space nowadays, man, in America, I can't speak for anywhere else, but I know living here, it seems very much like we're being forced to do things that we don't necessarily always agree with, right? We're kind of being pressured to accept things that we might not otherwise accept, you know, on our own terms and our own accord. And really, I think a lot of people are just like being bullied into, you know, saying they agree with things that they don't, and living lifestyles that they don't necessarily agree with, or not being able to live lifestyles that they agree with. And it's a very polarizing space, right? I guess I'm pretty simple in the fact that I'm a firm believer in just letting people do what they want and to be happy, so long as it's not at the expense of other people. It sounds simpler than it is, I guess, but I mean, that's how I feel.
Listen to this, because this is very fucking wild.
About 10 days after 9/11, I went through the Pentagon, and one of the generals called me and he said, "Sir, you gotta come in and talk to me a second." He says, "We've made the decision, we're going to war with Iraq." I said, "We're going to war with Iraq? Why?" He said, "I don't know." He said, "I guess it's like we don't know what to do about terrorists, but we got a good military and we can take down governments." So I came back to see him a few weeks later, and by that time we were bombing in Afghanistan. I said, "Are we still going to war with Iraq?" And he said, "Oh, it's worse than that." He said, "I just got this down from upstairs," meaning the Secretary of Defense office today, and he said, "This is a memo that describes how we're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years, starting with Iraq and then Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and finishing off Iran."
It's like insane that this was just said. How do they not talk about that every day?
I mean, it's not surprising. Really not for me anyway.
To get through tough times, when shuttles blow up, it's not always an accident.
What do you mean, not an accident? Who is this guy singing?
And who am I, a conspiracy fly? Did you know NASA means deceive in Hebrew?
I did not.
The Denver airport was built by the Illuminati.
Peter, shoo that fly out of here.
I will, as soon as I find out if he has a band from the Apple Store podcast I can listen to.
I do. It's flyonthewall.buzz/truth. First reconfigure your DNS server, then download a VPN and get the Tor browser.
It's too much work.
Oh man, how have I not seen that? Holy oh my god, dude.
Okay, so check this out. Before humans, according to the Kabbalah, Adam Kadmon, a heavenly human or androgynous cosmic being, if you don't know what androgynous means, it means having male and female characteristics, was created first as a spiritual reflection of the divine creator. So like Adam and Eve was created as a physical reflection of Adam Kadmon. So we know the zodiac chart, or the wheel, is Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, which is the beginning stage from spring to summer. So you start from the head, which is Aries, the ram, the cerebrum, which is the cerebrum of the brain, the top part of the brain, the bigger part of the brain, and the cerebellum, which is the cerebellum, the lower part of the brain. So when you stand this man up, you have Aries at the top, and then you have Pisces at the feet. You are Adam Kadmon. You are the universe. You are the universe. You are the zodiacal wheel. So Aries, your cerebrum, Taurus, your cerebellum, Gemini twins, both your arms. You have your chest, Cancer, or your breasts. Your heart is Leo. You ever hear the term heart of a lion? Virgo stomach, Libra kidneys, Scorpio reproductive organs. Sagittarius is the hips. Sagittarius is the man on the horse. And hippo means horse because hippopotamus literally means water horse. The knee, Capricorn. Aquarius, Achilles heel, Pisces feet. As above, so below. This is also how the sun goes through the signs. We are representations of everything. So the sun goes from the beginning of the year, January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. But the reality, it's supposed to start Aries. This should be January. This should be the beginning because we're starting in winter. So it should start in March and then end in Pisces. So the ages go from Pisces to Aquarius, and right now we're entering the age of Aquarius. We were in Pisces. So we will be in the age of Capricorn in 2,000 years from now. So 4,000 years ago, we had Adam and Eve, and then we had Abraham and Moses, then we had Jesus, and then now here we are. But what happened before that? So like 10,000 BC, we had the pyramids, and they were made in Egypt, and that's why we have the lion. We have the lion sphinx because it was made in the age of Leo, which was 10,000 BC. And to be honest, this is the type of stuff that they should have been teaching us in school, but they didn't, and they don't.
I don't know. That's a lot. Like somebody who doesn't know anything about it, like coming into it, like it's almost intimidating, right? It's almost like I look at that and I'm like, that's fucking, how the hell did you even come up with that? Like part of me is like, that's fucking stupid. That's bullshit. And the other side of me is like, that's fucking intense. This is great. Like I want to learn more, you know, but it's like that weird, like a disconnect there, like misunderstanding. It's like somebody doesn't listen to metal music, they think it all sounds the same, right? Like that's all gibberish to me, as interesting as it is. So yeah, if you have any more information about that to help me get a better understanding, I'm not gonna lie, I don't really feel like researching it, so if you could just summarize it for me in a comment or join the Discord and drop some videos for me to watch, that would be helpful. But yeah, thank you. It's very interesting.
On May 17th, 2022, Congress held the first public hearing on UFOs for the first time in over 50 years.
More than 50 years ago, the U.S. government ended Project Blue Book, an effort to catalog objects in the air that could not otherwise be explained.
The purpose was clear: to shed the stigma that UFO sightings have within the government. A stigma that started when Project Blue Book stated that all UFO sightings have a logical explanation, such as swamp gas, ball lightning, and weather balloons. And this conclusion didn't set well with a lot of people.
The stigma associated with UAPs has gotten in the way of good intelligence analysis. Pilots avoided reporting or were laughed at when they did.
Such as Commander Fravor, who personally chased a tic-tac-shaped UFO that jammed his radar before zipping over 60 miles away in an instant.
It rapidly accelerated in front of us and disappeared. The controller came up and said, "Sir, you're not going to believe this, but that thing is at your cat point roughly 60 miles away in less than a minute. You can calculate the speed."
And Ryan Graves, an F-18 pilot whose squadron began detecting UFOs that they described as a dark gray cube inside of a clear sphere that hovered in place.
I'm sorry, dark gray or black cubes?
Yes, inside of a clear sphere.
That's why in 2022, Congress started a new task force to start looking more seriously into the UFO topic. The two men in charge of this new UAP task force, Scott Bray and Ronald Moultrie.
Secretary Moultrie, Mr. Bray, thank you for coming today.
If you're like one of the thousands of people who tuned into this hearing yourself, you probably couldn't help but feel this overwhelming sense that these two guys seem to know almost nothing about the vast history that UFOs have in this country, yet they're the ones supposedly in charge of UAP intelligence. And rather than discussing any of the well-known and very well-documented cases going all the way back to the 1940s, the video they revealed to Congress was a shaky cell phone video that showed a quick blur that even they had a hard time pointing out on the video.
The laptop we're working with is not as easy for stopping that video in the right spot.
The hearing then reached its climax when a congressman from Wisconsin asked these two men if they knew anything about the 1967 UFO incident at Malmstrom Air Force Base.
There have been UAP observed flying over sensitive military facilities. One such incident allegedly occurred at Malmstrom Air Force Base. I'm simply asking you whether you're aware of it and whether you have any comment on the accuracy of that report.
To which they responded by saying,
"That data is not within the holdings of the UAP task force." Okay, but are you aware of the report? I have heard stories. I have not seen the official data on that.
Shocked by what he was hearing, Gallagher then scolded these two guys for how little they seemed to know about such a high-profile incident.
Well, I would say, it's a pretty high-profile incident. I don't claim to be an expert on this, but that's out there in the ether. You're the guys investigating it. I mean, who else is doing it?
If something was officially brought to our attention, we would look at it.
I'm bringing it to your attention.
Sure,
This is pretty official.
And the interaction ended when Moultrie then blamed their lack of knowledge on the case on their lack of resources.
there are probably a lot of leads that we would have to follow up on. I don't think we have resources to do that right now.
So why was Gallagher so passionate about the Malmstrom Air Force Base incident to begin with? Turns out it's because that incident in particular highlights a clear pattern that started to emerge regarding UFOs. That ever since the end of World War II, which ended with the invention of the nuclear bomb, there's been a clear uptick in flying saucer sightings near nuclear installations.
After the detonation of the atomic bombs in Japan, that's when the UFO sightings ramped up.
Man, I gotta feel like shit like that where they're just like pick random people that like don't know anything about it and like put them in these positions of power, like controlling this whole, you know, task force. they're just fucking with us, dude. You know, they're doing this just to shut us up. They're just like showing us like the shittiest, shakiest stuff that's like hard to prove. Putting these guys like they're probably fucking janitors. They probably just pulled out. They're like, hey, it's like a bullshit promotion, right? We need you to take the lead on this, you know, and just like giving us shitty evidence with these assholes that don't know shit about it and don't care to really solve the issue. Just taking the blunt of the trauma from the backlash of the people that want real answers. Sorry, I'm very passionate today, but let me know if you agree.
First of all, understand that if you're a U.S. citizen, you do not own anything. What? If you paid your house off, you don't own it. You have an equitable interest in the property, but you don't own it. Only way you can own anything in America, to actually own it, is with something called Allodial title. A-L-L-O-D-I-A-L. Allodial, I think that's the way it's spelled. A-L-L-O-D-I-A-L. Allodial title. Allodial title means God cannot touch it. No one. Because it's absolute owned by you. But if you don't buy your car, your jet plane, your boat, your house, whatever it is, and have an allodial title, then you don't own it. And the authorities can come in and take your home anytime they want. It's interesting. Banks cannot touch anything that has an allodial title, cannot touch it. Government cannot touch it. No one can touch anything that is bought under allodial title. Go look it up in a dictionary. Look it up in a law dictionary. Allodial title. Very interesting. The Queen of England, everything she owns is an allodial title. Means God can't touch it. Yeah. So, and Americans can buy stuff in allodial title. You just...
I wonder if that's like an unspoken option, right? If you like go to like buy a car, or you go to buy a house or something, if that's like kind of like a fine print like option they just don't tell you about.
Taste by a mutant wolf? Is it a dire wolf or a normal wolf?
Damn, man, I know that wolves like get pretty big, right? I'm not sure how big black wolves get. I don't even think I've ever seen a black wolf before, honestly. But if that was a full-size husky, that was a big ass wolf, man. I don't know if they're supposed to get that big. Dude, I don't know what it is about. This is gonna sound so stupid. I don't know what it is about like naked pale people, like just peering through windows. It creeps me out so fucking much. But nope. I don't know. That might creep me out more than like just moving shadows and shit, dude.
Something is watching me. If you've had that feeling, you know what I'm talking about. I'm playing only up in my office. Something keeps passing by this window. I've just propped up the phone here and I'm gonna play. If you're walking by my office, I want you to knock it off. Holy. Is that you making all that noise back there? This thing's always closing doors. You need to get out. Dude. Will you knock it off, please? You gotta get out.
Fuck you.
You're gonna lock yourself in the laundry room again? You're not leaving? You're not gonna...
Oh my God. I want to thank you for submitting that video to the Discord. And when I say this, I mean it in the nicest, the kindest, most loving way possible. Fuck you, dude. How does someone remain so calm in that situation? And he like continues to live there. I just don't understand.
There's a slime mold called Physarium polycephalum, and this slime mold is very, very good at navigating through mazes and challenges. The Japanese are so clever at this. They designed a nutrient, basically a nutrient-like maze, replicating Tokyo in the Japanese subway system. With all the major cities, the nodes around Tokyo, each of those nodes had a piece of oat on them, which was a source of nutrition, and then they let the slime mold then grow. And first it grew out randomly, exploratorily, and then after about 28 hours, it reorganized itself in the most efficient way possible and reorganized the Japanese subway system in a more efficient manner than it's designed today. Thus, they said, not me, not Paul Stamets, this is a demonstration of cellular intelligence.
Whoa.
So this is the tip of the proverbial mycelial iceberg, you know.
Bro, I'm gonna have to get some of that slime to teach me how to navigate my relationship. Hey, babe, can you come here for a second? I want to put the slime on you. Don't worry about it. You're gonna love it.
Hey, the real Pharaoh's curse is that we haven't built a pyramid bigger than Giza yet. I mean, just look at it. This thing is massive and it's over 4,000 years old. Oh, but we do have a pyramid bigger than that and nobody's talking about it. The Great Pyramid of Giza is peanuts against the buried Pyramid of the Sun in Bosnia, and you will not believe what they found there. In 2005, archaeologist Dr. Samir Osmanagic realized, hey, this hill in the small Bosnian city of Visoko is oddly shaped like a pyramid. And shaped like a pyramid was an understatement. This hill has virtually every characteristic of a real pyramid, and we continue to ignore it. To start, it has 4 triangular sides. That's it. Pyramid confirmed. We're done. Joking, but it's got even grade slopes and corners that connect perfectly under the foliage, along with an apex at the very top, the exact shape of a pyramid, but oh, it don't end there, Johnny boy. It's also perfectly aligned to the cardinal directions, north, east, south, and west, much like Giza. In fact, this one is even more aligned to true north than Giza, being only 1/300th of a degree off from perfect north, whereas Giza is 2/60ths of a degree off. They even took EMF, electromagnetic frequency readers, to the top and saw readings of 60 times more of what is normally expected on Earth. Another phenomenon that tends to occur at the pyramids, and the reason why is so mind-baffling that we'll have to save that for a future video. This hill was aptly named the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun, the first pyramid of its kind in Europe, taller than the Great Pyramid of Giza and even bigger than the biggest pyramid of the world, Cholula in Mexico, with 4 other smaller hills around it that are also suspected to be pyramids or some other structures, as is usually the case at these ancient sites. Sure, it might just look like a hill covered in trees, but have a look at what the Pyramid of the Sun in Teotihuacan, Mexico looked like before it was excavated and after. Same with Machu Picchu and after, and Chichen Itza and after. Any ancient site that isn't in a desert is typically covered with overgrowth, and the Bosnian pyramid is looking a lot like that before stage. And just have a look at these drone shots and tell me these formations look natural to you. So Dr. Osmanagic began the excavations, and now get this, radiocarbon analysis taken from the rocks hidden beneath the vegetation revealed that this pyramid would be over 35,000 years old, the oldest pyramid in the world by a long shot, over 30,000 years older than Giza, during a time in which traditional history claims only only tribes and cavemen incapable of erecting such monuments roamed the earth, far before any civilizations began to form, or so we think. For reference, here's a timeline of all major ancient civilizations and structures built around the world. And here is where the Bosnian pyramid would stand in that timeline. Excavations also revealed huge blocks of 7 tons each, stacked with geopolymer binding, which is an ancient type of cement, and perfect placement, along with perfectly landscaped terraces and other obvious architectural design, but oh no, these are all natural. Note that this was all uncovered up to a meter underground, as would be expected of a pyramid over 35,000 years old. And of course, the archaeological gatekeepers of the world insisted this is just coincidental, with some even going as far as saying Dr. Osmanagic purposely placed these carved stones here to deceive the public. And famed Egyptologist Zahi Hawass, who oversees most of the Egyptian pyramid investigations, even petitioning the Bosnian government to stop these excavations. Within hours of this international discovery, the story is swept under the rug and labeled a hoax. Well, over 50 archaeologists around the world remained optimistic and actually joined Osmanagic's work in Bosnia, with virtually every single one of them who actually saw it in person, confirming that nature could not have formed these hills. Further studies revealing an entire underground tunnel system in the area, the longest subterranean complex of any pyramid in the world. Inside these tunnels, large stone blocks were found that clearly seemed to be artificially created and placed. Other artifacts like this giant round stone that no one can explain, and a whole bunch of other smaller ancient trinkets, statues, and even what appears to be a map carved into stone were all found around the Bosnian Valley of Pyramids, all dismissed as irrelevant or flat out ignored by mainstream archaeology. Even the peak of the Sun Pyramid forms a perfect triangle with the peaks of the nearby hills, dubbed the Pyramids of the Moon and the Dragon. Another crazy coincidence, right? After much pushback, the government actually did grant Osmanagic the right to continue excavations, but with no official funding, the entire project depends on donations and volunteer work. These excavations are still going on, but after tourism to Bosnia slowed down in the last couple of years, progress on these pyramids have as well. As with anything, you could probably rationalize a completely valid reason for each of these discoveries, and maybe it really is somehow just a hill. So you think we're tweaking on this one, or are we onto something? Who's ready to get digging?
Man, that Egyptian archaeologist is such a fucking nub, dude. Nothing pisses me off more. Like when ISIS destroyed like those old temples and just erased history, just bulldozed that like old temple. That shit drives me up the goddamn wall. Especially someone like an archaeologist trying to like stop research and try to stop discovery. I wanted to be an archaeologist when I was a kid. I wanted to fucking dig up dinosaur bones. I wanted to, Indiana Jones this shit. So I'm pretty passionate when somebody who is supposed to be making new discoveries and helping us learn and discover things, and instead they're being paid off to keep things quiet, or just like working to keep things from progressing in order to like save face and remain like the dominant explorer in that. Dude, it just... I'm sorry, I'm getting worked up, but this shit, it just annoys the hell out of me.
So you've definitely seen this guy talking about acid versus alkaline diets, and you probably had a friend tell you meat is a
This guy is either a paid person to promote meat, like the Liver King, because the Liver King's an actor, or he's just an idiot, because if he did his due diligence and he knew who Dr. Sebi was, he would see the Supreme Court documents where he took hundreds of individuals, where he alleviated them from the diseases that they were experiencing in their lives through an alkaline way of living. Listen, it's real simple. When you go to school, you are taught in chemistry that there are two sides, alkalinity and acidity. Alkalinity promotes cellular reconstruction, and acidity promotes cellular deconstruction. This is why Western medicine uses petroleum-based medicines. They don't cure nothing, they just treat symptoms. But on the alkaline side, it fixes your organs and your body gets better because your body is interdependent. And your body's carbon, and the closest thing to carbon is raw fructose from raw organic fruit. Anything heightened goes through the pancreas and the insulin.
I see a lot of people nowadays, especially here in Florida, where people are becoming, a little more health conscious when it comes to like diets and, natural remedies and stuff. At least where I'm at in Florida, a lot of people are drinking alkaline water. A lot of people are getting like filters, installed in their homes. It seems to be working for them, right? So it's probably something I should look a little more into, I guess.
Did you know that in the ancient biblical text of the book of Enoch, there's vivid descriptions of multiracial aliens called Anunnaki, who went against God and slept with the daughters of men, and they bore great giant offspring. Enoch, who was the great-grandfather of biblical Noah, also known as Zisudra, recounts Noah being albino with blue eyes, and a son of Enki, the Sumerian water god. Enoch, who was the great-grandfather of biblical Noah, also known as Zisudra, recounts Noah being albino with blue eyes, and a son of Enki, the Sumerian water god. Enoch, who was the great-grandfather of biblical Noah, also known as Zisudra, recounts Noah being albino with blue eyes, and a son of Enki, the Sumerian water god. Interestingly, the Council of Nicaea in 325 AD chose to exclude this book from the Bible due to its detailed accounts of encounters with alien beings known as the Anunnaki, who interacted with our ancient ancestors. Today, we're going to reveal the complete historical records from the Book of Enoch and the Lost Book of Enki, shedding light on these events from ancient times. Enoch, a righteous and just man favored by the Lord God Enki, described a time before the first great flood. He witnessed extraordinary events, such as being taken up into the sky in a burning disc or chariot, where he saw the earth as a massive sphere, which in modern terms, this could be interpreted as an experience of being on a spaceship, viewing the planet Earth from beyond its atmosphere. During Enoch's time, humanity was peaceful, offering rituals and sacrifices to both their god and gods. Ritually, these gods accepted the offerings and stored them for later use, thus no longer needing to farm or grow their own food on this planet. The humans could do it for them. Enki, a compassionate, wise but lustrous water god, was left in charge of Earth after his brother Enlil was away off planet. He held great affection for human men and also the daughters they produced. This led to him having relations with Lamech's wife, Betanos. Lamech, the grandson of Enoch, was driven and overjoyed to hear the birth of a son from Betanos. Little did he know the great shock that awaited him. The following verse from Book of Enoch 105 reads, "After a time, my son Methuselah took a wife for his son Lamech. She became pregnant by him and brought forth a child, the flesh of which was as white as snow and red as a rose, the hair of whose head was white like wool and long, and whose eyes were beautiful. When he opened them, he illuminated all the house, like the sun. The whole house abounded with light. And when he was taken from the hand of the midwife, opening also his mouth, he spoke to the Lord of righteousness. Then Lamech his father was afraid of him, and flying away came to his own father Methuselah, and said, I have begotten a son, unlike to other children. He is not human, but resembling the offspring of the angels of heaven, is of a different nature from ours, being altogether unlike to us. Enoch's depiction in this passage reveals that Noah, also known as Zisudra, possessed the distinctive trait of being an albino. He bore striking physical resemblances to some of messengers and deities, commonly referred to as the Anunnaki. This uniqueness set him apart from other humans, as the descendants of Adam had a dark skin complexion during this time.
Wait, so does that mean that the Anunnaki are the Nordics? Man, there's just so much, but that's wild. And didn't Methuselah live to be 600 years old or something? But yeah, as far as the angels being the Anunnaki and them being blonde hair, blue eyed and stuff, that would they be? Is that the same? Are they the Nordics, or is that just another albino race? Help me understand this, please.
We're living in a multi-dimensional universe, and there's at least 11 dimensions. Otherwise, the universe would collapse. Each dimension is a 90-degree angle right above the next one, compactified. So they're sitting right on top of us. So within less than a Planck unit of space above you, there's another dimension that actually exists with a whole other universe happening simultaneously while we're sitting right here. From higher dimensions, they experience time differently. Time really doesn't exist. The past, present, and the future happen all at once. So somebody from the fifth dimension would look at us and they'd be able to see us in all the different rooms. The different rooms would represent different time frames of existence within this structure. So they can see the past, present, and future at the same time. Weird stuff starts happening the higher the dimensions you go. Atoms are 99.999% empty space. Nothing is really here. Everything is only a light wave slowed down to a particular frequency. And so if you can match frequencies, you can merge with things. You can walk through walls and all that kind of stuff. The things that are seen paranormal could be advanced beings that have tapped into some type of understanding of how to match different frequencies in our dimension and appear paranormal, but in true reality, they could just be taking a peek in.
Isn't there something, I don't know if it's called molecular vibrating or whatnot, but basically it's how you would travel through solid objects, right? It's just be able to vibrate so quickly that you can just vibrate through the atoms of the solid object. But I wonder if that would be kind of the same way to travel through not just solids, right? But also travel through these different, dimensions, right? These different planes of existence. If you could do that. I don't know, but I want to know.
Okay, here's another conspiracy theory. You've seen all the grainy footage of nuclear test blasts with the mushroom clouds. And there are always these grainy things, and there's all these like little houses lined up and these little trees lined up, and it blows everything down. Yeah. Okay, so here's the question, right? So what happened? Okay, so this is great. Okay, you'll love this. So what happened to the camera?
You son of a bitch.
How is that happening yet the camera is like totally stable and fine?
Oh my god.
And by the way, in the film is fine. The radiation didn't cause any damage to the film.
Oh my god.
And by the way, okay, we'll do this one more time here. Let's see the car.
The car's right behind the house. It just showed up.
Okay, it just showed up.
So wait a minute. First
it wasn't there.
First of all, where'd the car come from?
No car.
The second is, does it really look like
car?
Does that look like a real car?
That's insane.
And look at the and look at when the house blows. Look at the wood. Does that look like those are full size giant lumber beams as they go flying? Is that a house or is that is that a 12-inch scale model?
What?
Right.
That does look fake.
And also the camera didn't move at all either.
You know what it looks like? It looks like the smoke is too big. Watch when it hits. Like the volume, like the size of it, it looks small. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it looks like we're looking at something that's like a few inches tall.
If you watch making of Star Wars, any of the any movies before CGI, whenever they do anything like that, it's always with these tiny models.
Yeah, this looks fake as shit.
Right. Another one. It's like, okay, what the camera's fine.
That's hilarious.
I don't know how the camera survived or the film. I'm pretty sure that those nuclear test sites, obviously they're not bombing like real places. I'm pretty sure they make decoy houses and things like that, right? They could very well have been miniatures. I don't know, but I'm pretty sure test sites for explosion stuff. They want to see how it reacts with the structures and stuff. So they actually just make like cheap versions of it, right? So that would explain it breaking apart, I guess, a little differently. So the YouTube channel, the Corridor Crew, actually, they're visual effects artists, and they release some awesome stuff breaking down VFX. I've learned so much.
Here are 16 CIA operations that you've probably never heard about. Number 1, Operation Mockingbird. Starting around 1950 and growing on to today, the CIA has been known to utilize the media to spread conspiracies. They would put tons of journalists on payroll and make them manipulate information coming out on CIA operations in other countries and even just push certain agendas on the American population. Number 2 is going to be Extraordinary Rendition, which was started around 1995 and is a secret program from the CIA for interrogating and torturing. As of right now, we know of at least 136 individuals who were reportedly extraordinarily rendered or secretly detained by the CIA, and at least 54 governments reportedly participated in the CIA's secret detention and extraordinary rendition program. Let me know in the comments if you want a dedicated video on all of these different operations, because within these renditions are some of the most horrific things you'll ever see. This is Gul Rahman, who was mistakenly captured by the CIA operatives back in 2001. Who, due to the bullshit oil war that Bush started and the invasion of Afghanistan, he fled from war to Pakistan. He earned a living for his family selling wood to other Shamshatu camp refugees, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but in October of 2002, while in Islamabad for a medical checkup, he was abducted in a joint US-Pakistani operation. After nearly 2 decades of investigation, the CIA has finally been held accountable back in 2017 and compensated the family for his death. And rather than going to court and admitting their own truths because the 2 individuals that tortured him, which by the way, these CIA officers stripped him naked, chained him to the concrete floor, and left him there overnight without blankets, and this is what caused him to freeze to death. After failing repeatedly on trying to get this case thrown out for years, they finally decided to settle the case instead of going to court and exposing all of the truth. Number 3 is going to be enhanced interrogation that was started essentially and approved by President Bush after 2001 9/11. Of course, these techniques rolled over to what happened in Afghanistan with Gul himself. Both of these operations led to the creation of black sites, which have slowly been being leaked and found due to declassified information because of CIA fuck-ups. And the scariest part is we have no idea how many of these black sites actually exist. But what we do know is because of the declassification of a lot of these documents, we do know that Abu, who is going to be known as the forever prisoner, even though the government was never able to bring any charges on him about saying he was a part of Al-Qaeda after 9/11 took place, meaning he has committed no crime, the CIA went beyond human rights violations. Now, I can't show you these pictures, but he drew many depictions of what the CIA did after they captured essentially an innocent man. And admittedly on tape in front of a hearing, the CIA admits destroying all of the tapes and admits to torturing him. This includes rape, it includes putting him in small confined spaces that known as walling, it includes waterboarding him over 80 different times, and used him directly as a test subject on how to enhancedly torture individuals at these black sites. And despite all of the admitting to lies and documentation of the CIA being massively corrupted, as of 2021, he was still in prison. Number 5 is going to be Operation Ajax, which was a coup d'etat that was started by the CIA because they didn't want Iran to nationalize their oil industry. You see, Iran is vastly rich with oil as a natural resource, and nationalizing this would be a huge threat to the West and the control over the oil industry. Now, even though this was years before the petroleum dollar, what initially took place is in 1953, the CIA started this operation to pretty much allow the Western civilizations, the United States, to come into control over all of the Iranian natural resources and oil. They wanted to overthrow the leader, so that way whoever they put in place would be a Western subject or someone that lives up to the United States. Now, this essentially destabilized Iran and led up to 1974 over the next 20 years when there was the massive oil crisis. The US managed to consolidate dollar supremacy by establishing the petrodollar with Saudi Arabia. So had they not destabilized Iran and they were to nationalize oil industry, Iran very well could have been as rich as Saudi Arabia today. But this story is wild.
Man, I don't even know how to comment on that. That's so much information. I mean, if you do any digging, you'll see that the CIA is just, there's so much crazy stuff going on there. I don't really want to comment on it myself, but like corruption, lack of accountability, there are things that'll come up that'll point in all these directions. So without going into too much detail, I'll let you look further into it. I'll find some more information about it. But as far as me saying it, I think I'm just gonna not do that.
Watch the clown.
I just heard knocking from the closet.
In no reality that exists in the vastness of these never-ending multiverse realities will you find one where I am sleeping in a bed with that fucking weird-ass clown on a dresser staring at me while I sleep. There's no fucking way. Absolutely fucking not. Paranormal or not, I don't fuck with that shit. Whatever that was, I'm not fucking doing it. There's no way.
This is why you can't go snooping around. This man claimed to have found a giant, and then the CIA found him. Andrew Dawson filmed this on top of Jasper National Park in Alberta, Canada. He thought there was a giant there. It gained a lot of traction online, so he tried to get closer and find the creature, but in the process he claimed that he was stopped and harassed by the CIA. He stops posting for over a month, then he posts this video. It was really weird. All of the viewers were like, this seems forced. A month and a half later, after no posting, he dies. There's so much evidence about giants existing throughout history. The Smithsonian even tried to cover this up. This is like a whole thing. The government doesn't want us to know that giants are real, but there's so much evidence pointing to that they might be real. It's like they've tried to rewrite history and take giants out of it, but then if you look at historical artifacts and documents, giants are mentioned. They're mentioned in the Bible. They're mentioned in all sorts of different cultures from different places in the world that aren't connected to each other. Everyone believed in giants. If you want me to make a whole video talking about it, let me know, and follow my TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube for more. It really helps when you interact.
How did the Egyptians build these pyramids? What if
We had 30 to 40 foot giants on this planet. They built the pyramids, but to them they were just like small little rocks. Genesis makes a direct correlation between giants and mankind.
But there are also hieroglyphics of giants just physically lifting these stones up.
I don't know, I've had this conversation in another video. I don't think the Earth is big enough to house like multiple people, hundreds of people, whatever, however many were, thousands that are like the size of mountains, right? But I can get behind there being, you know, like 10 foot, 12 foot, maybe even 15 foot, you know, giants here at some point, because that makes a little more sense to me. But as far as the like world governments covering up the existence of giants, I don't really understand that. I don't know why that would be such a big deal. Dude, I don't know. Everything is so conflicting right now. The giants are in the Bible. They're trying to, you know, move us further away from God religion. So they cover up the existence of the giants. But then the giants were the Nephilim or the Anunnaki. But now they're coming out and they're telling us about aliens, but not the giants, even though the aliens were the giants. Like, there's so much happening. But as of right now, I don't understand why they would just like let little bits out that would kind of confirm these things without just like, oh yeah, no, that's all that.
If you're a conspiracy theorist,
yeah,
this is the real conspiracy. The conspiracy is have as many social problems as possible that people get distracted by, that people concentrate on, whether it's a pandemic, whether it's masks, vaccines, pride, trans movement, sponsor drag shows for kids if you want people to get mad and want people to get distracted.
Right.
Sponsor
Let them
that.
focus on that.
Get people to think that it's a good idea to do that and watch the outrage. You know, get people to think that the oceans are going to be boiling in 5 years. You know,
right.
Get people to think that if we don't change it, like that was one of the things that Greta Thunberg said 5 years ago, that we'll all be dead.
In 5 years?
Well, it's 5 years later, and we're not all dead. So you definitely are wrong, and you're 16. So why are they flying you out to Ukraine? Like, what is going on?
Yeah.
So there's so many of these fucking social distractions that are in our face all day long about everything. And I feel like sometimes that's what I feel like about Supreme Court rulings. We're going to take away Roe v. Wade, and everybody's like, what the fuck? What?
Yeah.
What? And that's another one.
Yeah.
And then that one becomes a thing that people identify as the most important problem that they have to solve. And while all this is going on, money's getting moved around, decisions are getting made.
Yeah.
And it's a brilliant cover for wild shit.
Yeah, because all you have to do ever really is follow the money on anything.
Yeah.
And you see what's actually happening, and everything else is a distraction to that.
Yeah, I mean, that makes perfect sense, right? United we stand, divided we fall. There's strength in numbers. Like, what better way to weaken a society than to turn them against each other, right? To where our focus is on smaller issues, personal issues, which affect us as individuals more because our emotions are raging and we're told to really lean into our emotions rather than look at the world through a lens of logic and rationality, right? Like, we're basically getting patted on the back for letting our emotions run our actions nowadays, which I think is not great. It's not a great idea in any area of life, but that's what we're basically told to do, which is just like supercharging our reactions to these smaller issues while people in the background are just making, you know, large moves, big moves while we're distracted. I think it's always been like that, you know? I mean, it's just all propaganda. Everything that we're told is just propaganda to get us to either sway one way into something or away from something or distract us from what's actually happening.
Here's a newsworthy story for you. According to the LAPD, a man posing as a U.S. Marshal was taken into custody at an event attended by Democratic presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. The man seen here wearing an EMS shirt had 2 shoulder holsters, lots of ammo. He claimed to be a federal agent and to be employed for the event, but he wasn't recognized by the security staff. At the time of posting this video, the man's identity has not yet been made public, and a spokesperson for the LAPD stated that the FBI may end up taking over the investigation. Further details regarding any potential charges are unavailable at this time because he hasn't officially been booked. Mr. Kennedy took to social media thanking the LAPD for their quick response. He also thanked the security company that he hired after his early request for a Secret Service detail was denied by the Secretary of Homeland Security, Alejandro Mayorkas. In his post, RFK Jr. also stated the following: "I am the first presidential candidate in history to whom the White House has denied a request for protection." Although they've made exceptions in the past, presidential candidates are typically not provided security until 120 days before the election.
So I haven't really followed any of this much. I don't know much about RFK Jr., but I do know that he's making waves. I don't know what to think about this. I've seen a couple things saying, you know, he's the plant, not RFK. I mean, maybe that too. When I'm talking about this guy who attempted this and posed as a federal agent. I don't know, man. I don't know what's going on. All this is crazy.
Interesting facts that you may not know. Crazy theories that make you skeptical about life. Everyone you've ever known knows and will know is you. That is the egg hypothesis. This theory comes from a short story of the same name in which there are two main groups, you and a god. In the story, you die in a car accident and after your death. Face to face with God, God tells you that you will be reincarnated, but not to the future, but you will be reincarnated into the past as a Chinese girl. In the 5th century, God also said that each time you die in each life, you will continue to be forwarded to different times and places in the timeline until a point in time where you will be live the lives of all the humans that have ever existed on Earth. And when you are done living all your lives, all your beings will merge and become one God, all in all hypothetical. This theory holds that the universe exists as an egg for you to live within, and lives will help you to grow and grow until one day, when you have completed all your lives, you will hatch from the egg and grow. Become God.
God damn, I love that story. Man, that's such a cool story, such a cool theory. It makes me think though, like, if a god created you to do that, to learn all that and become a god, does that mean that there's multiple gods in this like story, this theory? Or I don't remember exactly. I know I read the story a long time ago. Or was it that the guy that created you was also you, and he was explaining it to a version of himself that was helping him experience everything?
The manner in which these celebrities get initiated into the Illuminati is so obvious, it's right in front of your face. Throughout the years, people have noticed high-profile celebrities suddenly stepping out with a black eye out of nowhere, with no good explanation for it or a goofy explanation for it. These are people with very high security who are put in no danger situations ever. Politicians, religious leaders, the Pope, the President, the biggest stars in the world. This is all a part of the conspiracy theory called the Black Eye Club, where these black eyes are part of the initiation ritual for them to join the evil Illuminati. And as the saying goes, the eyes are the window to the soul. So if you wanted to take someone's soul, it would be through their eyes. So in this ritual called soul scalping, these famous people's souls are violently taken from their bodies through their eyes in some manner that leaves them bruised. And have you noticed of all these celebrities, they're all coincidentally bruised only on their left eye? Which could be a reference to the left eye of Horus, which is a symbol frequently flashed in pop culture. And have you ever noticed that all these Illuminati hand symbols are over their eyes? I'm going to tell you which celebrity just stepped out with a black eye, but before I do, make sure you follow so you finally know the craziest conspiracy theories about each of these celebrities and request who you want to see next. Doja Cat just stepped out with a black eye multiple times. Around the same time, there are rumors of her joining the Illuminati and having an Eyes Wide Shut themed birthday party. She claimed the black eye was just makeup to help her achieve a more creepy aesthetic. And everyone at that party had to wear an eye covering that day, so maybe Doja adding makeup to hers was hiding it in plain sight.
Okay, so I just want to let you know, since the start of this channel, I've had a few people make comments saying I'm like planted opposition, right? Like I'm like I was put here to deny things or accept other things. Dude, I'm just a dude who likes these videos that decided to record myself watching them, right? That's really all this is, man. But on that note, I do train mixed martial arts, and I am right-handed, which means my lead hand and my lead side is my left. So if you ever see me with a black eye, it's because I was sparring and I got my ass kicked. That being said, this is a pretty wild fucking theory, and I wouldn't put it past any of this. I don't know, let me know what you think.
The Loch Ness Monster is actually real. Yes, you heard that right. Everyone heard about the Loch Ness Monster and its existence in the past. But what if I told you he still exists today? In 2022, a man named Jamarcus Dorothy decided to embark on a mission to discover the truth about the existence of the Loch Ness Monster. He rented a large boat and loaded it with equipment to survive for 2 months in the sea. From there, Jamarcus explored for weeks without seeing anything. However, after 36 days of sailing, he spotted what appeared to be a giant monster in the water. As he approached, he realized just how large that monster was and came to the conclusion that what he saw was the Loch Ness Monster. Jamarcus then decided to record the moment and posted the video online when he came home. The video was soon taken down, and Jamarcus Dorothy was reported missing by his relative. Luckily, some people managed to save the video. Subscribe and send to a friend for part 2 to see the footage.
I always thought the Loch Ness Monster was a dinosaur. You know, I think that because that's my mom used to tell me growing up. My mom is also very into conspiracy theories. Hi, Mom. I mean, that was kind of always the hypothesis, right? Back then, there wasn't like, you know, before the internet was a thing, like there wasn't a lot of information about any of this, right? It was just like certain things like the Bermuda Triangle, like things that were in the tabloids, you know, Bermuda Triangle, Loch Ness Monster, Bigfoot, not much else, right, outside of all that stuff. So when we would discuss these, we would rationalize them based off information we had, like Loch Ness Monster. Oh, it's probably just a dinosaur that survived, right? Oh, Bigfoot is probably a primate that, you know, maybe just didn't evolve all the way into a human. So we used to talk about stuff all the time growing up, but now that we have all this information, you know, on the internet and stuff, we can kind of like stretch out our theories, right? We have a lot more that we can incorporate into these theories to try to figure this stuff out. Loch Ness Monster, dinosaur, still.
The argument for algorithms is that it helps us find what we want to see and caters to our likes and dislikes. That doesn't sound so bad, right? But I don't buy that for a second. Because for years and years, the argument was that different algorithms for different people don't exist. It isn't real. What are you talking about? Well, years later, with overwhelming evidence to prove that algorithms do exist, now it's widely accepted as a real thing and spun as a positive. But that isn't necessarily true either. The algorithm is there to keep you engaged and hooked on websites and apps for longer, to accurately collect your likes and dislikes, and do whatever it takes to keep your eyes glued to the screen and your wallet spending money. If you linger too long on a certain thread or a video, the algorithm will recommend more like it. If you argue online, the algorithm will find and create more incendiary posts to rile you up and keep you engaged. Look at Facebook. It's a well of content thrown at you just to rile you up and support your pre-existing beliefs. Are you mad about this? Well, here's more stuff to get mad about. Are you worried about this? Well, here are more things to worry about. So how much of the internet is fake? Studies suggest that less than 60% of web traffic is human. That's right, 60%. According to researchers, some years, a healthy majority of them are mostly bots. For a period of time in 2013, the New York Times reported that half of YouTube traffic was bots masquerading as people, a portion so high that employees feared an inflection point would happen, meaning YouTube systems for detecting fraudulent traffic would begin to regard bot traffic as real and human traffic as fake. They even have a name for this hypothetical event. It's called the inversion. Remember, this was all the way back in 2013, so it's not a stretch in the slightest to assume that the threshold of bot traffic has been met and surpassed, meaning that the internet is, for the most part, filled with non-living voices. But let's get even deeper and more disturbing. DARPA, the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, is a research and development agency of the United States Department of Defense, and is responsible for the development of emerging technologies for use by the military. DARPA had a program called LifeLog, and its goal was exactly that, to log one's entire life. LifeLog aimed to compile a massive electronic database of every activity and relationship a person engages in. This was to include credit card purchases, websites visited, the content of telephone calls and emails sent and received, instant messages sent and received, books and magazines read, television viewing habits and radio selections. The point of collecting all of this data on everyone was to identify preferences, plans, goals, and markers of intentionality. Another of DARPA's goals for LifeLog had a predictive function. It sought to infer the user's routines, habits, and relationships with other people, organizations, places, and objects, and to exploit these patterns to ease its task. Sounds absolutely terrifying, correct? Well, lucky for us, it was shut down February 4th, 2004 over criticism from civil libertarians concerning the privacy implications of such a system. Interestingly though, on that exact same day, February 4th, 2004, a small and little-known website at the time launched called Facebook. No, I'm not joking, not in the slightest. The exact same day that they shut down LifeLog, Facebook started. Lucky for us though, back in 2020, on Twitter, the official DARPA account came out to reassure people that LifeLog and Facebook have absolutely nothing to do with each other. Even though certain employees of LifeLog went to work at Facebook, it's nothing to worry about. Right.
All right, I'm just going to come out and say that in these kind of situations, there's no such thing as a coincidence. I think that we've reached that point to where we can say things like that. There's no fucking way that was a coincidence, right? Let me know what you think.
Did the real-life Men in Black actually get Dan Akroyd's show on UFOs canceled? Check this out. In 2002, Dan Akroyd was filming a brand new UFO show called Out There for the Sci-Fi Channel, when he went outside to have a cigarette break and to answer a phone call, but at that very moment, something very strange happened. So according to Dan, he went outside to smoke a cigarette and answer a phone call when he noticed a big black car roll up with two guys inside of it all in black. He was still on the phone when he saw that one of the guys got out of the car and was glaring at him. He looked away for 1 second, and when Dan looked back, Not only was the man in black gone, but the entire car was gone as well. Now this all happened only in a matter of seconds, and there's no way that car would have disappeared that fast out of his line of sight without Dan seeing it at some point. Now here's the creepy part. According to Dan, it was only hours later where he found out his show was being canceled and they had to stop filming immediately. So what do you think? Was the famous Ghostbuster actually silenced by the real Men in Black? Hey, the truth is out there.
Well, that's disappointing, because I love Dan Akroyd. He's awesome. I love the Ghostbusters, and that show sounds like it probably would have been awesome, dude. I've listened to a lot of stories of Dan Akroyd. Like, I guess his dad was like a ghost hunter or something. Or his grandpa. I'm definitely butchering this information. I'll correct it later, or you can look it up. But I just know like his family has been like involved in like paranormal and conspiracy theories. Like, I'm pretty sure his whole life. So he's super informed, right, on it. He's very knowledgeable. So that show probably would have been amazing. That's very unfortunate that it got canceled.
I have this poster that exposes every conspiracy theory on the planet. Today, we will unravel the truth on the moon. The moon is an artificial satellite that originated in another solar system. It was moved here thousands of years ago using elite technology known as tractor beams. According to an employee that worked at the top secret Air Force base known as Douglas, it's not even a moon, it's a station. It was moved here several thousand years ago from another sector of the galaxy. Let me ask you, what do all bodies in the solar system have in common? They all rotate. But the moon? It doesn't seem to rotate at all. According to Max Spires, a man who was for speaking about these sort of things, said, "The moon is a trap designed for your soul. When you die, your memories are wiped, and you are sent back down here." He died right after he said that. Have you ever heard the phrase, "The moon is a soul catcher"? When it is your time and you are crossing over, do not walk towards the light. Instead, turn around and step.
I think that the moon was essentially brought here to kind of change the environment on the planet, right? I mean, there are ancient civilizations. I don't know who exactly. It's kind of a blanket statement, but very old civilizations that talk about the time before the moon was here. They also talk and say that the Earth was basically covered in like a fog, like a very thick, like fog and mist. Part of this theory is that when the extraterrestrials brought the moon here and kind of parted on our orbit, it changed the gravitational pull of everything and the environment and the way everything worked, and all of that mist and fog, that very thick like dew, fell to the Earth and basically caused the Younger Dryas, the Great Flood. And then after that was done and everything settled, the Earth is how it is now. The tides go in and out, all that stuff, and the moon is there to doing what it's doing. So, and I don't know if one of those things is harvesting souls. It could very well be. Definitely wouldn't have been my first guess, but super fucking interesting. No, not touching that one. Not touching that one. Nope.
Where it gets really freaky. I got goosebumps. I'm scared, bro. From Albert Einstein, it says, "I'm not sure which weapons the Third World War will be fought, but the Fourth World War, they will fight with sticks and stones." Day one of AI taking over. It was contained to its own server. The AI figured out a Roomba vacuum. That's the only thing it could figure out how to connect to. So it put all of its information onto the Roomba computer, and then that allowed it to connect to the Wi-Fi, which allowed it to connect to everyone's phones, and then it spread instantly. It was in control of 3D printers to build itself with no one knowing, until the one time 40 days into it decided, I don't want humans anymore. Dude, it like went into this whole thing to where shut down the power plants, it messed with Wall Street, like just chaos. Developed its own killing drones to survey all of Earth. Like if a human was found, it would kill it. And he's like, obviously the story is made up. Yeah. He said the story was made up by AI when I asked it to make up a story of how it would take over. Lily, are you doing okay?
Stories like that are very, very creepy. But from what I understand, those stories, at least from what they say, is that AI obviously hasn't reached singularity yet. Hopefully, or we're fucked. But all those stories come from stories that it basically pulls off of, you know, what's available that humans have written. I mean, it's basically like just telling us our own fears back to us, which is kind of interesting, kind of neat in one sense, but also kind of terrifying to think of the possibility of that being true and that being possible, which I don't know if it is yet, but yeah, I'm not gonna hold my breath.
Smell what the rock is cooking.
I eat children. I eat children. Children. How old are you?
12.
Oh, okay. Only to 10.
Only to 10.
That's good.
That's good.
Children and pineapple. Children and pineapple. I eat children. Children and pineapple. Children and pineapple.
I don't know, man. I'm still not sure how I feel about the whole adrenochrome thing. I know that stem cells do really great work in regenerative recovery. I know that there are like people that will have like blood donors and stuff. Basically, you know, trade plasma with younger people to try to, you know, get their healthier, stronger cells in order to try to revitalize their systems and things like that. I don't really have an opinion on it. I just know it's a thing that happens. Again, I don't know the data on that. I don't know if it actually works, but if that works, I could see the whole adrenochrome thing having some credibility to it, in which case I would not put it past people with the opportunity to take advantage of that opportunity. Even though I know that that's a fairly easy visual effects trick that can be done, that shit still fucking makes my skin crawl, man. It just still rubs me the wrong way. There were so many times when we were kids where we'd play like Candyman or like Bloody Mary in the fucking mirror, and I'd always fucking chicken out because it's like, I don't know, it's just not for me. It's gonna be a nope from me.
The Pentagon scientists believe that at one point there were these supergiants. They don't base that on just anything. They claim that they reached heights of 1,000 to 2,000 feet tall. And they're not just delegating this to the Native American folklore, which Native Americans apparently had folklore that said the giants were so tall that their heads were literally in the clouds. They kind of led you to believe that the giants that were referenced in the Bible really were only about 15 to 20 feet tall. They were giants, but they weren't super giants as recorded in Enoch. The biblical giants were a more palatable size. It wasn't like a giant that was so tall his head reached the clouds, and now they have identified quite a few terrestrial objects that the scientists claim are leftovers or basically deceased body parts of these giants that are actually mountains.
Listen, all around you are spirits, child. They live in the earth, the water, the sky. If you listen, they will guide you.
And it's certainly not just the depictions of faces found time and time again in the rocks. Our realm was much larger, and the evidence that geology is nothing more than hardened biology can be found everywhere. And those with open eyes and open minds see it all too well. Makes you wonder about that pink Himalayan salt. We are standing literally on the remains of this much larger post-apocalyptic realm of ours. I recommend everyone check out Mud Fossil University on YouTube. Covered up and buried in an instant, in some cataclysmic reset of our realm. And what we get is the final moments of these titans, frozen in time like a photograph. Question everything, friends. Until next time.
I'm not convinced, but I am open to looking more into this. You guys suggested I look into There Are No Forests and also mud fossils that we're watching right now. So thanks, because I have zero experience with this topic specifically. So I will be looking more into it because you want me to, and now I'm interested. You've piqued my interest. I think a lot of it is pareidolia, but yeah, thank you for the recommendation. I'm invested now.
Missing child posters are for trafficking operations trying to sell children. I wish I was joking, but it happens everywhere. In fact, I'm almost certain that it happens in your city. While visiting my local convenience store, I spotted one of the posters. The innocent face staring back at me was haunting. So out of concern, I asked the store clerk about the child. His response, a stilted "just a missing kid," was delivered with a suspicious glance, sparking my curiosity. Taking the poster, I dialed the number printed at the bottom. A woman answered, her voice strained with worry. I asked an unusual question, half joking, half curious. How much? There was a moment of silence, and then the call was abruptly transferred. A voice, deep and distorted, replaced the worried woman. He sounded unfazed by my question, instructing me to meet in an alley between 6th and 14th Streets the next day. His voice sent a shiver down my spine. There was something deeply unsettling about this exchange, and I knew I had stumbled onto something far more sinister than a regular missing child case. The next day, from a safe distance, I watched the alleyway. The eerie silence was shattered by the grating noise of an approaching vehicle. A black SUV backed into the alley, the dark vehicle looking ominously out of place in the narrow, grungy alley. I watched with bated breath as the back door of the SUV opened, revealing a squirming body bag. The sight was bone-chilling, a horrific tableau that confirmed my worst fears. I was witnessing a transaction straight out of a nightmarish underworld where missing children were merchandise, their posters merely a coded advertisement for their illicit sale. The realization hit me like a punch to the gut. I tried to contact the authorities, but my calls fell on deaf ears. Dismissed as a crackpot spinning conspiracy theories, I was left to grapple with this monstrous secret alone. The image of the squirming body bag still haunts my dreams, the manifestation of a horror that lurks beneath the surface of our everyday lives. Now, every time I see a missing child poster, I can't help but feel a shiver of dread. The innocent faces staring back at me from these posters are a grim reminder of the dark underworld I stumbled onto. Each poster feels like an auction tag, each call for information a coded negotiation.
The world fucking sucks, man. I mean, there's good. There's a lot of good in the world, but dude, there's so much of it fucking sucks.
Is there more to the missing 411 phenomenon than simple coincidence? The missing 411 refers to a series of unsolved cases of people who have mysteriously vanished in national parks and forests around the world. These disappearances, extensively documented by retired police officer David Paulides, share eerie similarities that defy simple explanations. The theory suggests that these disappearances could be linked by more than just location. The victims often vanish without a trace, even when in sight of others, and search dogs are frequently unable to pick up a scent. When bodies are found, they are often in areas previously searched, with cause of death remaining unexplained. Some speculate that these disappearances could be the result of cryptid encounters, alien abductions, or even interdimensional phenomena. Others suggest a government cover-up, pointing out the National Park Service's alleged reluctance to maintain a database of the missing people. While skeptics attribute these cases to simple accidents or wildlife encounters, the peculiar patterns and strange circumstances surrounding these disappearances continue to stir curiosity and unease. The question remains, what's really behind the missing 411 phenomenon? As more and more people continue to vanish, the mystery only deepens.
I know that it is very easy to get lost in a national park. Those places are massive. And if you go off path, it's very easy for you to just get lost and just never be found again. I'm one of those people that likes to go off the hiking path, not in like a giant national park, just like small little forest preserves and things like that. I just like to explore. You know, I like to pretend I'm a hobbit, just on a quest to Mordor, and just walking through and just experiencing nature and stuff. But I don't trail that far off. I assume a lot of these cases are just that. People going off course or getting lost. That being said, I'm sure that that's not always the case.
He says that having his own fingers amputated has made him feel more complete. Yet he says he's only 46% of the way to becoming an alien. And what he has planned next is disturbing. This man hails from Montpellier, France, and his name is Anthony Lafredo. Anthony calls himself the Black Alien. He began his transformation at the age of 27, and in order to look less and less like a human, he's already had tattoos all over his body, as well as numerous cosmetic surgeries such as removing his tongue, nose, ears, and 2 fingers. He's also had his teeth dyed purple, and the whites of his eyes black. He even had silicone implants implanted. To justify all this, he explains, first you have to know what you want. Then you have to have the courage to say it. And finally, you have to have the energy to do it. According to some sources, his next steps are to have his legs amputated and to become very thin. So we wonder what he'll look like when he's reached 100% of his transformation. And more importantly, we wonder why nobody's stopping him because he's clearly hurting himself. But he says, I'm lucky enough to live the life I want, to do what I want physically. It's absolute freedom. There's no one to stop me. Except that he still complains when he gets kicked out of public places like certain restaurants, which don't hesitate to ask him to leave.
It's a little intense. It's a bit much in my opinion. Like, obviously I like body modifications, you know, piercings, tattoos, and things like that. But I'm also a bodybuilder, a weightlifter, and I understand body dysmorphia. I understand becoming addicted to tattoos. And I think at some point in all this stuff, you know, politics aside, we all have our own opinions on that stuff. And I'm all for people doing what make them happy, so long as it's not at the expense of other people. I think at some point, I think it is wise and even kind, you know, to kind of tap someone on the shoulder at some point and be like, yo, maybe just think about this, you know, maybe just give this a second thought, at the very least.
The Las Vegas alien encounters just got more information released. Watch this clip from a YouTuber named Chaos Moogle.
Ring cam footage from Neighbor 1. Ring cam footage from another neighbor. And probably the creepiest ring cam footage I've ever seen that matches the description of what the family saw. I also found someone on TikTok analyzing the footage and actually showcasing some of the creatures you guys mentioned in the comments. Check this out.
To find the aliens in front of these guys, but I noticed something insane, and I want everybody, my 2 friends who will watch this, to take a look down, pay attention to 2 areas. We're going to look down here on the bottom right behind their fence and right up there. But we're going to first start down here because I found something crazy.
Spots I wasn't even focused on holding more mysteries.
To this video. And I'm going to point out 2 things you need to pay attention to right here, which is the head. And if you look really close, and what you will see in about a minute is a hand. That, I believe, is some creature, non-human, crouching down. And that was its eye I just pointed at. And I want you to pay attention to what appear to be fingers running up the fence, as if it's kneeling down or something and peering out. And then there you go, see the fingers. And I think I go back and forth a couple times here, but it looks to me like there's a little other, or a big creature looking through the fence on the bottom there, crouched down. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but you tell me.
That'd be pretty fucking wild if they were standing there looking at the 2 aliens in front of them and not noticing the one down to the side of them. That'd be fucking wild. I feel like that'd be creepier to watch after the fact than the actual experience of seeing them in front of you.
Are these the ruins of Atlantis?
No, of course not. Are you kidding me? What the hell kind of question is that? Yeah, Milo, well, the British Netflix guy told me that it was Atlantis, so despite what sociologists who have a son that works for Netflix may tell you, these are not the ruins of Atlantis. This spectacular megalithic site is called Nan Madol. Located on Pohnpei Island in Micronesia, Nan Madol is frequently lumped in with Atlantis conspiracy for the sole reason that it sits slightly below the waterline. But it was not built by some ancient lost civilization. In reality, it was built by the Saudalair people who populated the island for about 500 years, until they were conquered by another Pacific Islander nation in like 1630. And Nan Madol was pretty important because it was their seat of government. The Saudalair dynasty was a total monarchy. It was ruled by, you guessed it, the Saudalair. So why is their capital city slightly underwater? Pacific Island nations were seafaring people, and so the city was specifically designed to be made of a series of locks and canals to navigate canoes through it. So no, it is not a slightly sunken city. It was just built like this on purpose. So remember, kids, just because it wasn't built by white people doesn't mean it's Atlantis.
Gotta mix in the good with the bad, man. Man, I appreciate videos like that a lot. It just makes me wonder if they get all their information from just like mainstream, archaeology, or if they like do research themselves. I do think a lot of mainstream archaeology is very credible. It's just then there are cases like that Egyptian archaeologist that basically cuts off access to Egypt entirely to people that have an opinion different than his. And I don't know at what level that extends across the entirety of the industry, right?
The Blue Beam Project marks the beginning of complete population control. This delusional project aims to simulate a large-scale fake extraterrestrial invasion worldwide, with visible UFOs in the sky in the presence of a fake god to save humanity from this alleged invasion. They would use highly realistic secret military technology and have recently conducted tests. The result is astonishing. The ultimate goal would be to eradicate all religions and establish a single, unified religion, thus gaining complete control over the population through fear. This project, combined with the HARP project, would allow for the manifestation of a religious figure capable of causing earthquakes, storms, and natural disasters to deeply influence the beliefs of populations. Do you remember the movie Spider-Man, Far From Home, when they used holograms to present Mysterio as a hero? Now recall this phrase. In the movie, we'll tell them the truth, and in reality, we'll lie to them. Give me your opinion on this, and remember that if extraterrestrials ever invade us, don't believe them.
Oh, man, I'm so conflicted, because I 100% believe this Project Bluebeam theory is actually true. And then on the other foot, I 100% believe that aliens actually exist. So now I'm like just conflicted. I'm in the middle here. I'm just like, I think I want to believe that it's real, that there would be real aliens, because at least there would be a 50% chance that that would work out well for us if they were real aliens. They could be coming here to help us or share things with us, or they can come here to destroy us. But then if it's Project Bluebeam, the only outcome is us just kind of being slaves, right, to the machine. So fingers crossed, they're real aliens.